only see 3 people. Because that's all that's in here right now. Oh. Okay, where are you, Alex? I'm in California.
You want a little wisdom? Listen to Rabbi Brian. Rabbi Brian.
Good. Welcome to Rabbi Brian's Garden. Hi, everybody. You guys say hi.
Hi.
Well, it only does one voice at a time, but and Rona's here. Glad you're here, Rona. I wanted to start with last time we talked a little bit about, and I sprung it on people. We talked about planning for your own funeral, and I did that intentionally of not telling you ahead of time we were going to talk about that because it's an uncomfortable topic. So I'm glad that you guys are back today. I have scheduled that we should talk about prayer and we should talk about gratitude because American Thanksgiving is coming up on Thursday, and it seems like a good place to start. I'm going to start us with the thinking about gratitude, and I'm going to show you a little equation that looks like this. It says gratitude. So I have the belief that everyone has a gratitude practice, whether you formally have a gratitude practice or not. You have a gratitude practice in the same way that whether you have a formal budget or not, you have a budget. It's just, you know, it's what you spend, what you earn. That's your budget. You just might not know what it is. And I think the same is true about a gratitude practice is that, oh, and I see Gina's just joined us on Facebook as well. That's great. So I got a gratitude practice is made up of 2 things. Gratitude practice is equal to the number of times you are thankful, as in Thanksgiving, minus the number of times you complain. If you take the sum of thankfulness minus complaints, you wind up with gratitude. I think everyone should be able to figure out that math. Yeah, you got a little nod there. So your gratitude practice is equal to the number of times you are thankful minus the number of times that you complain. And there are obviously 2 variables here that we can deal with. Oh, I see. Hi. We have 2 variables here to deal with gratitude. One is thankfulness and one is complaints. And so I'm going to give us tools for each of them. And it goes like this. So thankfulness, we could add more thankfulness to our life. Everyone can add a little bit more gratitude, a little bit more thankfulness. Let me not use the word gratitude. Everyone can add a little bit more thankfulness in their life. And I'm going to encourage you to do this on a piece of paper. I want you to commit to one person today. You don't have to be nice to the whole world, but I want you to commit to one person who you can be a little more thankful towards. It could be you want to write a little letter to somebody, write them a letter or send them an email or send them a text message or just say to somebody flat out, you get off this Rabbi Brian's Garden call and you pick up the phone and you say, hey, Joe, randomly calling you today just to tell you that I'm thankful. It's Thanksgiving in America this week, and I want to tell you that I'm thankful for you this week. So on your piece of paper, who is it? Write down one name. Write down one name of somebody who you can be thankful for this. Everyone got one name? And you can hold it up to the screen. If this works right, I should be able to see the name. And hold it up to the screen so I can see who's the person you want to be a little extra, you are going to give a little bit more gratitude. And while you're doing this, I would suspect, when I see it right there, you got someone named Amy, and we got Gail, and we're going to be a little bit more thankful to, oh, Emily, I can't read that name.
Dennis.
To Dennis. And Loretta, who do you have there on yours? Well, let me unmute you for a second. I'm having a hard time with that. Can somebody else read what Loretta has? Loretta, go ahead. Who is that?
Amy. She's a friend of mine whose husband has gone through open heart surgery recently. And she's a nurse and she's having a really hard time.
All right.
Letting the others take care of him.
So you're going to give her a little bit. And I see, Alex, you got 3 sisters there to be thankful for.
Yes.
Okay, so just because I've done this before and I think I know how this works, as soon as you write down and you commit to being a little bit more thankful, what tends to happen in our own being is we tend to have a little bit more, we get a little bit more joy in our life. I mean, because that's what love is. Gratitude, thankfulness towards someone is sending a little bit more love. And it's this ridiculous thing where the more you give, the more you get. And it's just such a strange and beautiful spiritual exercise. The more grateful you are, the better you feel. Now, this doesn't always, like, if you're really, really super depressed, you can't just go around being grateful and get yourself out of the depression. You got trauma you got to deal with, you got to deal with it. But we can give ourselves a little bit of a boost by being a little bit extra thankful. So everyone's got one little thing of homework. You got people who you got to be thankful for. Good. Complaint. I once did something, well, I can't say once because it took a really long time to do. I did something, it was called the 21-day no complaint challenge.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Oh dear. A minister by the name of Will Bowen came up with the phrase 21-day no complaint challenge. And the idea is exactly what it sounds like, that you are to go 21 days without complaining. It took me 4 months. It took me 4 months to be able to go 21 days without complaining. I could get to 2 days. I got to 4 days a lot of times, but it really takes a lot of training to go 21 straight days without complaining. I am a devotee of this idea. I can tell you that the 21-day no complaint challenge literally changed my life. It changed the way that I think because, all right, so let me go through a little ground rules. The 21-day no complaint challenge, the way Rabbi Brian plays it is this. You go 21 days without saying a complaint. And that for me, that included sarcasm. But it did not include just a statement. I had a cold. How do you feel? I don't feel particularly well. That was not a complaint. That was just a statement. And you have to play the game however it makes sense to you. I'd say if you think it's a complaint, it probably is a complaint. And I would also say, if it's a thought, it's not a complaint. You can think, man, my ass hurts sitting on this bench. Saying it out loud, I remember exactly the bench I was sitting on when I turned to Jane, I said, my ass hurts. This bench is really uncomfortable. And that for me was a complaint. So any questions? I'm going to give you guys homework on this. Anyway, show of hands, how many people are really excited to try the 21-day no complaint challenge?
How about one day?
Oh, hi, Scott. Good to see you there too. You don't have to do the 21-day no complaint challenge. You don't have to do the 1-day no complaint challenge. But I can assure you that the less you complain, the higher up your gratitude goes because you hear less complaints. I mean, not only do I hear less complaints, I can't control the number of complaints I hear from my children. I can try to control them, but I cannot control the number of complaints I hear from my kids. But I can control the number of complaints I have from me. And I'd say we got a few people on the Facebook that seems to be working. So let me say hi to Daniel and hi to Bonnie and hi to Patty and Gina. You were on Facebook and now you're there live, so it's good to see you as well. So here's your Thanksgiving homework. Do you think you can go all the way? Today is Tuesday. Do you think you can go all the way from Tuesday today to Thursday without a complaint coming out of your mouth? Is it worth trying?
It's worth trying.
It's worth trying. So try it. With any kind of change, the very first thing is we have to notice the thing. If you're complaining without noticing it, you're still complaining. And it might behoove you to pay attention to how many times you complain. And you would probably be surprised. Questions about gratitude, because Thanksgiving's coming, American Thanksgiving's coming. If you're in Canada, you've already done Thanksgiving, so you might have some tips. Any thoughts about complaints or gratitude or thankfulness before we move on? I'm going to move us on a little bit. I'm also going to say thank you guys for all being here. This is kind of a cool thing that, this is only episode number 6 of Rabbi Brian's Garden. And I'm thrilled that all the people who are here. So welcome, and I'm glad you're here. Before I move to the next topic that I have prepared, is there any, I was supposed to bring this over. Anything here? Ask the rabbi any questions you want to, you need a quick answer. What is Judaism's perspective on, or anything else that you thought in the last week that you wanted to ask the rabbi? The rabbi, oh wait, I have this slide also. The rabbi is in. I kind of felt a little bit more like Charlie Brown.
Can I ask you, do you have to join Zoom before you join Rabbi Brian?
In order to see the screen with all the people on it, you have to click on through Zoom.
Zoom
which you go
first.
through,
Okay.
through the website.
Okay, I was just, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and there's I see my friend Scott has just said thank you. And so that counts as gratitude. I'll add one other thing on gratitude that I learned from my grandmother, and it's a really cool little thing. My grandmother said that, and I love this, she said that we often in America, we just say thanks. And that we're leaving out the 2 most important things, which are the people, is that we often, if we don't say thanks, we'll say thank you. And my grandmother had picked this up. I don't know where she picked it up, but that you should put in the I first.
Oh,
I thank you. That it's not just thank you, that it's coming from me. So I thank you. Has a different ring to it. So, all right, maybe you don't want to do the 21-day no complaint challenge between now and Thanksgiving. But how about for the next 3 days, you try this one out.
I thank you.
You say, I thank you. Oh, fantastic. Oh, and I see my friend Bennett is there as well. Welcome. I feel a bit like Mr. Rogers. And also somebody emailed me, and then we'll move on. Somebody emailed me that it's a little bit like Romper Room, where I'm looking out and I'm seeing everyone. And I have a little trivia about Romper Room. I was on Romper Room when I was about 4 years old. And I'll tell you a little story.
Bumper, bumper, stomper, boo.
I was on Romper Room, and I had a puppet, and it had fuzzy cotton hair, and I'm 4 years old. You got to remember the height of a 4-year-old is right about waist level. And I'm at, and they looked at the Miss Mary Ann, who was the host, and she said, do you know what this is made out of? And I said, cotton. And she said, do you know what people use cotton for? Well, the only thing I had really ever seen anyone use cotton for was my father was applying Preparation H with it at the time because he had a issue. And so that's what I said cotton was used for. And my mother, who was there in the studio, she told me she was a little bit embarrassed at that moment. Glad to share that. Mom's not on the line right now, or we could hear her perspective on the story. But now I've shared. All right, our next topic I wanted us to talk about, we have no questions for Rabbi, the Rabbi is in, is somebody asked me in the last week they said, Rabbi, would you please help to explain about prayer? Could you please help me to understand a little bit more about prayer, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And I'm very glad to do this. And here first, before I tell anything about prayer, I want to tell you my favorite joke about prayer, because that's how this learning goes. Oh, and hi, Taylor Ford. Glad to see you there too. The favorite prayer joke is this. There's a guy, and he's driving, and he's late to a meeting, and it's a really important meeting. And he's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to be late to this meeting. This is terrible. This is terrible. I can't believe I'm going to be late. God, please help me find a parking spot. And he's driving, and there's no parking spot, no parking spot. And then right at the building where he's going to have to dash in, a car pulls out. And he sees the parking spot. He pulls straight back into the parking spot. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought for a moment. So he's going, he sees the parking, he says, God, please help me find a parking spot. Right then a car pulls out, and he pulls right in, and he says, oh, never mind, God, I found one. Thank you for being amused by it. So this is the way we normally see prayer. There are 3 types of prayer, and they all start with the letter P, which I'm always, I like mnemonics that all start with the same letter, but it kind of makes it hard to remember which the 3 things are, because they all start with the same letter. But here are the 3 things. We often think of prayer, and this is from the Latin, is we get the word petition. Precare is the Latin word for prayer, and it means petition. And in Shakespearean English, I pray, would you do this for me? It's that kind of prayer. It's a petition. It's an ask. It's a, oh God, please help me find this parking spot. So that's a petition prayer. The next kind of prayer we find is a prayer of praise. And a prayer of praise is where you say, oh God, like it's gratitude. It's this notion of, look at this blue. I went on a walk with my daughter, and there was this shrub that had lost all of its leaves, but it still had these little berries on it, which were just purple. And it was just this bush filled with these tiny little purple berries. And a praise prayer could easily have come out of that, of like, oh my word, isn't this beautiful? I didn't necessarily use the God word. You don't have to use the God word to have a prayer, to have a praise prayer. But that's what this is. So we have prayer number 1 is petition. It's asking for something. Prayer number 2 is praise. It's this idea of gratitude, which loops back with what we've talked about gratitude. The opposite of that kind of praise prayer would be a complaint of saying, oh, I went to see my kids in this ballet, which I did, and the one violin was so off key. And like, you're going to say that's going to be what you took away from the ballet performance, was that the violin was off key? How that's the opposite of praise. So prayer number 1 is petition, prayer number 2 is praise, and prayer number 3 is presence. Prayer number 3 is presence, and that's on being in the here and now. I have a very dear friend he's got one of the most lovely souls I've ever known, and he's heartbroken right now. He's just heartbroken, but he's heartbroken in the here and now. He sees how heartbroken he is. He's crying, and it's a prayer, the way that he is present to his own discomfort. There's a story in the Bible of Jonah, who's one of my favorite of all of the prophets. And Jonah, if you remember the story, the waves and everything's in tumult. Jonah jumps off the boat. The big fish eats Jonah up, takes Jonah to the bottom of the ocean. And there's Jonah at the bottom, at the very bottom of the world, in the pitch black. And Jonah doesn't say, oh God, please save me. Jonah doesn't have a, oh God, you're so wonderful, I love you so much. Jonah's prayer at the bottom of the ocean, in the darkest of darks, is a prayer of, this is where I find myself right now. And that in itself is a prayer, to just be present to reality, as opposed to, my children right now, they have the day off from school. I'm doing this Rabbi Brian's garden with you. My children are currently watching television, and they are not present at all. I said, guys, I have to go do this this recording. I'll be with you in a moment. Are you okay just being zombies? And my son didn't say a word because he's not present. He's not even there. And my daughter just said, I eat brains, because she's a zombie. But the idea is of being present to where you are right now. And so I'm going to ask you to do that right now. Let's say a little prayer right now. And the prayer I'm going to ask you to say is not a petition, nor is it a praise, but the prayer I'm going to ask you to say right now is a prayer of presence. It's Ram Dass who talked so much about being in here and now. And this is this now. So take a moment, find yourself. Where are you at this moment? Incredulous? Joyful? Rushed? Wherever it is, when we acknowledge where we are, then we're present. And that to me is a prayer as beautiful as any other. I'll tell one other story. And it's a story of, there was a sheep herder who would say, I apologize. The story was of a cow herder. And I don't know why it makes that much of a difference, but I need to tell the story the proper way. It's an old story of a rabbi who comes across a cow herd. And the cow herder would say, I am a cow herder. Oh God, if you had cows, I would tend to your cows for free, for I love you this much. And the rabbi says to the cow herder, no, these are not the proper prayers. And the cow herder says, oh, you're a rabbi, you must know better. So the rabbi and the cow herder sit down, and the rabbi teaches the cow herder how to say all the proper prayers in Hebrew. And the story ends with God being so displeased with the rabbi because the heavens have been denied a beautiful prayer. And in my job, Religion Outside the Box, my job is to encourage you to have a more prayerful life, not necessarily to say more Hebrew prayers, but to have a life where you're more fully present, where you are when you're there. Okay. Hi, people. It's good to see you actually here and present. There's something beautiful about that. And there's something about alive where we are right now, where we are present, that you can't get. And I'm sorry to anyone listening to this later, you don't get the same thrill because it's not live. So if you're listening to this in post after November 20th, I'll ask you to please be present wherever you are. But here we are, all of us who are here. I'm going to say we have about 5 minutes until we're done. I'm going to ask for the people who are able to, who would like to. Oh, and I see some other people have joined. There's Lacey McCree. Hi, Lacey. Glad to see that you're here as well. I'm going to ask people who are here, what's one thing that you got? And you don't have to participate, but what's one thing in the last 25 minutes that we've been here together? What's one thing that you're going to take with you? What's one thing that you're going to take with you from this Rabbi Brian's garden? And I'll ask you if I can see you to make your hand or do something so I know that you're willing to be called upon. And just tell us one thing. Loretta, tell us what's one thing that you're taking with you from our talk today.
To practice the I thank you.
To practice putting I in I thank you.
Yes.
Beautiful, wonderful. And other people can have the same answer. Kathy, I see you keep getting unmuted. I don't know if that's because you want to say something or not. No. Okay, Rona, what do you have, my friend? Oh, wait, I have to unmute you. Go ahead.
Being less complaining will higher your gratitude.
Being less complaining will higher your gratitude practice. Are you willing to go 21 days no complaint challenge?
We'll try one and then one more and then one more maybe.
Yeah. It's an amazing practice to do. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Alex, I see your hands there.
I really liked your joke about prayer and the fact that you're not out to make people pray in Hebrew and that prayers are heard even if they're funky.
Yes. Thank you, Alex. Gina, my friend. Oh, wait, I'm going to try to unmute you. Not working quite yet. Let me try that one more time. There you are, Gina.
Just the realization, I'm content. I didn't know that until you asked. That's lovely.
Wonderful. That's the best ever. I came to realize that you were content. I love that. Thank you, Gina. Emily, what do you say, my friend?
Well, I like that cow story and the way he told God that he would watch his cows for him. I like that.
Yeah. And so with for you, Emily, what would your prayer that would be parallel to that?
Let me think on that.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Is there anyone else? I'm going to look over here. Anyone else for anyone else who wants to share out?
Yes. Can you see me?
Yes. Yeah, we see you.
My name is Neola. I'm a friend of Emily's.
Good. Good. We see you. I sent you an email a moment ago to invite you. I'm glad you're here, Neola.
Yes. Well, I did get that, and I don't know how it happened, but I miraculously got tacked onto the program. So I'm thankful for that, and that's where I am right now with you. And
Amen.
these other people,
I like that.
wherever they may be.
Well, thank you, Neola. I thank you guys very much. And I'm going to give you a charge. And this is surprising even to me because I did not plan on doing this. But here it is. I want you who are listening to this, who are hearing me, could you do me a favor? Can you go out and be more present in the world? Not reacting the way you thought you should to someone. Not using a script you've already prepared, but will you go out and be more prayerful in the world in the sense that I'm going to ask you to be more present and maybe even to surprise yourself to hear something coming out of your mouth with people that you weren't expecting yourself to say. And of course, you can always apologize if it was the wrong thing to say, but to just be present, to be as present as you can, to be real in this world. I think that would be a blessing for all of us. Amen.
I like that. Amen.
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 We're at a time boundary, so I'm going to say goodbye to Emily, Loretta, Rona, Gina, Alex, Kathy, Beth, Neola, Isabel, Lacey, Taylor, Scott, everyone who's listening. And I'm going to mute myself so you guys have a chance to say goodbye as well.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Glad you got clicked in, Neola.
If you want a little wisdom, listen to Rabbi Brian. Rabbi Brian.